But the worst case scenario happened back in April when 52-year-old Jim Smith from Mississauga died after he was thrown from a golf cart. He lost control of the cart, hit a wall. He and the passenger in the cart were both ejected. He later died from his head injuries. Michael Smitiuch is from Smitiuch Injury Law, serving as an advocate for the Smith family, joins us now. Michael, appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Devin.
Well, you don't hear about a lot of deaths from a golf cart, but they should not be dismissed just because of that. You think about there's hills, curves, no restraints, decent amount of speed. You do need to be careful.
Oh, that's for sure. This is certainly not an isolated incident, this tragedy involving Mr. Smith. We've done a lot of research on this. We've had other cases involving golf cart injuries, most recently a trial in December in Toronto. And our research has found that on average, there's about 13,000 golf cart-related injuries each year in the United States. And if you can believe this, 20 deaths a year in the United States. We've reached out to Health Canada to try to find out what the numbers are in Canada, and we're awaiting some information from them. We don't know that they really track it that well, though.
Seems to be a common story here from some of these more specific, I guess, cases, but the United States seems to do a better job of keeping those kinds of stats than we do.
There's no doubt about that. I've had a lot of involvement with consumer product safety issues, including a case in London we had involving Vision's cookware, where we had a trial and were successful. But the stats are way more detailed in the United States through the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So that's something that I think we have to have a look at in Canada and track things better.
What's the most common reason for this? Is it some sort of, speed maybe going down a hill or something like that and you lose control of the cart?
There are a combination of factors, I think, that contribute to golf cart injuries. Sometimes it can be driver error. Sometimes in this case, we believe it might be a poorly designed golf cart pathway. In this case, it was a very narrow and very steep decline with a retaining wall immediately next to the golf cart path. So there are a variety of factors, I think, that come into play when we're talking about injuries and deaths involving golf carts.
I gave a bare bones of kind of what happened. You kind of expanded on there. What did happen in April that unfortunately led to Jim Smith passing away?
Well, right now the police and the coroner's office are investigating, so we're waiting all the details. But what we do know thus far is this. He was at the Caledon Golf and Country Club, and going down the 14th hole, there's a cart pathway. And there's an immediate sharp left turn, but at that left turn there's a large retaining wall, and there's no space whatsoever between the retaining wall and the golf cart path. And on the other side of it, you've got a forest where that just drops off into a forest, and there was no guardrail. So the preliminary indications are that the golf cart came in contact with this really large retaining wall, and then lost control, and then eventually ejected Mr. Smith and his passenger, and he died due to a head trauma the next day.
The one case I mentioned off the top where someone was hit with a golf ball while driving a golf cart, after that, this happened out in Banff, the Banff Springs there, they had all their people who were working for them wearing a helmet. I don't know if there's a lot of golfers who would want to do that or wear some sort of restraint in a golf cart, but where do we go from here with this, with a greater awareness on, there is, some pitfalls and some dangers towards driving a golf cart?
For sure. Well, I think it starts with, the golf course design. I think that when golf courses are being designed, and we've looked into this as well, there are safe ways to design holes, including relating to ball flight, so that you don't have balls flying into other groups on opposite holes. But in particular, in this case, our research has indicated that there are many ways to make a golf cart, the pathway, much safer. Guardrails, you can do what are called switchbacks, so the decline is not as steep. And of course, warning signs. Warning signs that, there are sharp bends and so forth are always a good idea.
It's interesting because, it's been a little while, maybe a year or two since I've golfed, but there's not a lot of golf courses that do that, so it would be quite the change.
Well, I think you'll see, and we've found a number of courses that are implementing what I would say are very safe golf cart pathways. A lot of courses, if you go out, they have guardrails, so you can't fall off into the woods. especially if you have a big retaining wall, the margin of error is so slim. So I think good golf course designers are doing these things already.
And just in general, just greater awareness that just because you're in a golf cart doesn't mean something couldn't happen.
Yeah, that's not a toy, and it's people usually associate it with a fun time, but you're quite right. These things can roll over very quickly, so you have to be careful.
Michael Smitiuch, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's Michael Smitiuch, a lawyer from Smitiuch Injury Law. Two cases I have seen recently where something serious happened. One was in 2010. A man died after he fell off a golf cart at Deerhurst Resort in Huntsville. In 2012, 3 women were hurt at the Richmond Hill Country Club after one of them lost control of the cart. Last July, a woman was seriously injured after being struck by an unmanned golf cart at the Midland Golf Course. 13,000 golf cart-related injuries every year in ERs in the United States. On the one hand, surprising. I guess on the other hand, not that surprising, considering how many people play golf. The golf carts can move. Lots of you got people maybe indulging a little bit, having a refreshment beverage or two while they're on the course. So it can happen. Not saying it's an epidemic of sorts at all, but something to think of. Happens more than you would think. We need to break when we return. Speaking of more than you might think.